everybody, my name is Erin, this is my co-host Trevor, and welcome to
The Queers Podcast,
where we talk all things queer.
But we don't really talk about anything at all.
Trevor, what is in your mug today?
So my mug consists of a little fruit smoothie that I made.
Oh, that's nice. And we're also representing Starbucks.
Yep, it's sponsorship by Starbucks. Actually,
sponsor us, please.
Just kidding.
Actually, you know what? I don't want to be sponsored by them. I want to be sponsored by like a small company.
Yeah.
I want to help our small companies. Anyways, I'm drinking out of...
Yeah,
what?
What about your mug? What's in your mug today?
I am drinking out of this nice glass clear mug today,
Glass
and
mug.
it's water.
Unique. What kind of water is it? Like
Just tap water, baby.
just tap water.
Also,
I thought that was filtered water.
oh yeah,
Out of
just
the
kidding. No, we have no filter in that.
Oh, it's just a fancy
It's
picture.
just well, I wanted to have cold water. I didn't want like lukewarm tap water, so I just put in a pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
Anyways, we also have these cool little like silver straws. I'm getting water all over our equipment.
Yeah, because I don't want to get smoothie everywhere.
Yeah,
but
so we have these cool little straws.
Stainless steel reusable straws that are perfect to reduce your waste. You probably have seen that big blow up about straws, and that's partly, I mean, we like to live by our values in order to do what we can.
We just want to like reduce the waste any way that we can, and this is one way we can do it. So
plus they look cute anyways, so.
Yeah, and it's nice having a straw.
Yeah. I like use a straw way more than I ever did without this, so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like having to remember our friend is also home, so you're going to hear that when she comes in.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to say that today we wanted to film something special for you guys because I know that we've been gone for a little while.
It's been a minute.
She just walked in.
Yeah.
Hi, we're doing a podcast. Please try to stay quiet, but I love you. Savannah? Can she not hear me? Savannah!
So.
We're doing a podcast. Yeah, so try to be quiet. I love you. I love you. Okay, sorry.
So speaking of informalities.
Anyways.
We've been gone for a long time, and so first of all, we'd like to apologize for that.
Yeah, number one.
Also, we'd like to explain a little bit about why we've been gone for so long. It's because we were very eager to start this process of doing podcasts and talking about things that we were passionate about, but amongst that timing,
we never really thought about the timing of when we started it. So what happened was we were just like, oh, we need to start this, we want to do this, without even thinking about what was going on in our lives at the time. It was like 2 days before finals week.
Adulting.
Yeah, it was 2 days before finals week that we filmed it, and then we had finals week, and then we had to finish up like classes and everything, and then we had just actually moved into a new place. This is like the new place that we're in right now.
New apartment.
Yeah, so this isn't going to be the setup that you guys always see, but this is like just what we have right now.
We're just winging it with the setup.
Yeah, we really wanted to wait to make it again when we knew we would have time to really like invest into it, because before the timing was just awful when we decided to do it.
Right.
So I think now we're going to be more on like a better schedule. We're not necessarily trying to put this on a schedule because Trevor and I both work in a way where if there is a deadline, we don't find enjoyment out of it anymore. And we want to be we want to enjoy this experience as much as we can, because then we're giving content that we, like watching and like putting out there.
Yeah, so first of all, what we like, and then second of all, we know you'll like it too because we enjoy what we're actually talking about, and in the best state of mind possible. And with that, it is gonna just progress from here. I feel like you gotta start somewhere. So
yeah, and I feel like this is definitely like a better start than what happened last time. Although like I'm really proud of like the first thing we put out. A lot of you guys took it really well. You guys understood what we were trying to do, and I think that it was just good overall. It was a good start, and I'm glad that we did it, and I'm glad that now we recognize, okay, we need to do it during times that we aren't stressed, that we want to do this, that we like have time for this. And I think we're also going to invest more time, because I don't think we thought it would take on as well as it did.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's not that many people, it's still more than what we thought maybe 5 people would watch it. At least I did.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely went into it with no really high expectations. But the amount of people that have shown their love for it is just more than I ever could have imagined from the first video.
There's just so much love and support from our friends, and even people we don't really talk to like watching it and have told us like that they love it and that they find enjoyment out of it, and that's what we wanted. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. So that's why we wanted to make sure that we're giving you guys the best content that we can. And if we would have rushed it, which we did film, we did film one of the podcasts, a second podcast that we never put out because it was rushed. We weren't in a good headspace.
Yep.
It was in the middle of finals. It was at like 9:00 at night, maybe later, and we both had class. And it wasn't good. It was really bad content, and it wasn't something that I was proud to put out. And I don't want to put anything that I'm not 100% proud of, like, putting out there.
Yeah, I'm proud so far and of what we've done and as well. So we'll just keep going on with that.
Yeah, and so segueing off of that, we decided that today we wanted to talk about both of our coming out stories and what it was for us as individuals, because every person's coming out story is completely different. So just talking about that and seeing if anybody out there can relate, and maybe if you never had to come out, understanding what it's like for people who do have to come out.
Yeah.
And for those people who don't necessarily understand or have to go through that, to become better allies so that they can better understand what it is that we go through.
Going on that, I just feel like my biggest struggle with coming out is like, what's the freaking point?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a big deal that recently, I know Brendan Urie came out as pansexual, but like, okay,
why?
Cool, but I mean, I get why it's necessary, but also I don't get why it's necessary, because like, if he wouldn't have came out, then society would have freaked out either way and said, oh, if like he like publicly came out that he was dating a man, then
it would be an issue.
Like,
why didn't you come out?
Either way, which it still might.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even okay, so like Pink, I can't remember when she did this. I just watched a video recently of Pink saying, she was like, I'm gay, and everyone was like, yeah, and then she was like, I'm not actually gay. But I think that saying I'm gay should elicit the same reaction as saying I'm a Virgo. It should just be neutral. It shouldn't mean anything crazy or anything. People shouldn't cheer. People shouldn't boo. It should just be like, this is what I am. And like, people are like, okay. Right. And I definitely think that it should be that way. I think it's kind of shitty that we live in a society where everyone is expected to be straight, and then if you're something else, you have to let that known.
Yes.
And I don't like that. You know, I get what you're saying though. Like, it should, like me saying like, oh, my favorite color is blue, and me saying I'm gay, it should elicit the same reaction.
Exactly.
Which is no reaction.
A part of you. It's not who you are. It's not. It doesn't define the entirety of you.
But obviously right now, like, we have celebrities coming out because they want to show that there are more people like you. It's to help have, what is the word?
To create, like, safe space.
Well, create safe spaces, and not only that, but
normalities.
Make it normal, and so that people have representation.
Right. Representation within the pop culture that they enjoy.
So that's huge.
Yeah. And I think that society is growing and we're getting better, but there's always going to be different parts of society that don't agree, because society's complex. It's a big monster that no one really understands. So.
Well, I think once more and more people come out, it'll start becoming the norm, and I think it will start making people not be like, oh my god, that's crazy. It'll just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's first and foremost like creating an open mind within yourself is going to just allow you to accept different people's cultures and experiences throughout their life, and it'll just ultimately create a better space for everyone. But leading into that, so when I came out, it was about...
Okay, first of all, I want to say we're gonna do this in sections. When you came out to yourself, when you came to terms with your own sexuality, when you then realized that and then came out to your friends, and lastly, when you came out to your family and how that was. And I also think we should add in there what it's like coming out every day, because you do, as a gay person, have to come out every single day to different people.
Right.
So we're just doing that in sections, so...
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think that, so initially, as coming out to myself was a big struggle and an ongoing process kind of throughout, and the way that I identified myself solidified at the end. After like I came out to my family, it was more clear to me what that meant, but initially it was a big struggle. The biggest struggle for me was with my faith. I grew up in the LDS faith, and the doctrine that I was taught helped form my perspective on life into a very uniform box of what I should be. So when I started recognizing that I had feelings for men was very difficult, and it almost made me feel like I was a split personality. Obviously, I don't know what that disorder feels like, but I just felt like inside I had two different people living in me, and
you're not necessarily saying you had like a mental issue. You were just saying like you felt within yourself a battle of two different sides.
One that I had been grown up and raised to believe, and then another one that I knew to be true. Those two people inside of me were battling and clashing to figure out what was right and what was wrong. So I feel like in order to combat that, I initially came out as bisexual to myself. I knew that was like that was easier for me to understand, I guess.
Do you know how old you were when that happened?
So I was in 8th grade, so that's probably about 13, 14 when I started really recognizing these feelings. And I think had I not been raised in that faith, I might have recognized those feelings sooner.
A lot sooner.
Because looking back on my childhood, you see all these like all the cartoons and movies you watch, you're like, oh, that's what I had a crush on.
Well, not only that, but then you'll have the right vocabulary to really describe what you're trying to say about yourself.
The vocabulary is a big one because you don't truly understand the meaning behind certain words.
Yeah, exactly.
Like gay.
And especially when you're growing up in a place that's so closed-minded, it's really hard to find the vocabulary. Because like it's so closed off to the outside world. You don't hear the words. Like I myself grew up in a Christian environment, and you don't grow up learning any of that stuff. I went to a Christian middle school, a Christian high school, and then the first time I really started like learning about all of the vocabulary and what it was and what it meant to be gay was when I was in college.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I'm still developing, I feel like, my meaning of it. There's still so much to learn, and you just have to gather the information as it comes to you. And so individually I accepted that to be true. And at school, so as an 8th grade, middle school, that was mostly where I had conversations about it, because at home I didn't know how to talk about it, first of all, and I didn't really want to because I was fearful of how that conversation would go. So I just remember the first person I told was my friend Mariah, and we would like pass notes to each other back in back between class, and I would talk to her at lunch about this kid named Billy. But he was the token straight crush that I had. But obviously middle school girls are not going to know any more than middle school boys. Like obviously we're all just freaking confused.
Yeah, you're young.
We don't know how to combat complex feelings like this. So I just remember that I took solace within at least a couple of my friends, close friends in middle school, to help me like figure out feelings. And it was definitely validating to know that my feelings were okay. And I was like I'm very blessed and grateful that I had those couple friends that I could talk to initially. And as I got more comfortable, I told more of my friends. And I guess because I had a great community within the orchestra community, because I played cello. So those were my close friends too. And I guess as I came out more to more of my friends, it was less and less important to me to come out to people as I knew them. I never made a big post or a big spiel to like the school or multiple people. I assumed that people knew anyways, because I know like people would talk anyways, and at first I didn't like how people told my secret to other people that I didn't necessarily want to know.
Which makes sense. Like, it's not okay for anybody to out somebody, because that's not their place.
Right.
Regardless of whether or not you think it would make their life better if they were just out.
Right.
It's not your place to do that. You could be frustrated to be like, all you have to do is come out. Like, not everyone's going to freak out, trust me.
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, that's not your job.
Even if it's a mutual friend and it's, like, lightheartedly telling this piece about me, it still affected me negatively because I wasn't maybe ready to let that many people know. But as time went on, I realized that was going to happen regardless, at least in my circumstance. So I just accepted the fact that people knew, and I didn't feel the need to come out on a day-to-day basis like you were saying.
Well, I mean, like, later on in life, like now,
it's still,
people still kind of assume that you're straight. So, like...
It's a consistent...
it's consistently, like, for me at least, having to come out because, like, I work at a grocery store and we have customers that'll come in and I want to talk about my girlfriend. Like, they'll mention something, I'll be like, oh, my girlfriend does this. And it's like you almost have to come out. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, by the way, I'm gay, but I have to be like, oh, my girlfriend, the person that I love, who I am with, because they automatically assume girlfriend, oh, it's your friend. It's like, no, like, this is my girlfriend. So it's like, things like that, like, you're still having to come out every day because not everyone's going to sit down and assume that you're gay.
Exactly.
Almost everyone in society, and I'm not saying, like, people who are educated, I'm saying a lot of, like, the uneducated, normal, like, straight, white cis community, a lot of them just assume that you are straight, and like that's not necessarily their fault. That's society and how everyone has been brought up and taught, especially in America. So yeah, it's kind of like you don't necessarily have to like be like, oh, I'm gay. You do have to kind of clarify sometimes, oh, this is my partner, like this is my girlfriend.
A big one for me is firstly like doing that individually to myself, like on a day-to-day basis, because if I recognize someone isn't completely comfortable with the topic, then I have to like reassure myself almost in my brain that like, oh yeah, this is part of me, this is who I am, like I shouldn't diminish that in any way because someone else doesn't agree or the fear of like them not agreeing to it.
I've definitely noticed doing that in like when I first started working because I didn't want to lose my job, which is really shitty.
In a professional sense, I definitely have those fears.
And that's really shitty. Like you should be able to be yourself 100% in a job, outside of a job, whatever. Obviously being professional, but there's nothing unprofessional about being gay.
Yeah.
And so like even at work, I would notice myself being like, oh, my friend and my friend. And then I was like, why do I keep calling her my friend? She's not my friend.
Yep.
Like, you don't do the things with your friends that I would with my girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so it's just like kind of pushing beyond that barrier within myself and being like, it's okay, you know, to be gay. And that's something that still, like, we both, I feel like, struggle with every single day. Not necessarily, like, all the time, you know, but, like, there are little things that, like, we struggle with, especially being out in public or being in a professional sense.
Public, yeah, when you come into new relations with new people in those settings, it is. And then from the high school perspective, I almost felt like I had to come out. Maybe, like, every day was a new day, and, like, I would definitely talk to new people in the school that I had talked to previously and had grown to know. But that necessity for me just diminished or went away, and I didn't feel that need. And I think that, so coming back a couple years before high school, I told my dad first. Looking back at it, it's because he was more complacent and not necessarily, he worked a lot and wasn't necessarily completely involved in...
So you thought telling him would be a little bit easier because he wasn't always there all the time? You know?
Yeah, I think so.
It wouldn't be something you have to dealt with as much as you would like with your mom.
Exactly. So I told him that I was bisexual, and it was in a dark car in the driveway. We were like just came back from somewhere, and I told him I was bisexual.
What made you come out at that moment? Was there a conversation or?
There was no conversation prior to anything being being gay or bisexual, and with either of my parents. So I just felt very strongly that I needed to start talking about it, and I just made the push within myself. I took the moment that I had, and he gave me the typical scenario speech about his faith and his religion, about what a man and a woman are supposed to do, and but that he said he still loved me either way, and it was reassuring, but not necessarily what I was expecting. And it was still hard to hear like the religious perspective, just because that's what I'd been hearing, and I didn't really want to hear that. But it was still comforting to know that I was accepted, and in the least way possible.
Like you were accepted in the manner of like he would always love you, but you weren't necessarily accepted in the manner of you being gay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He accepted me as his son, obviously, but that part of me was not accepted. And
which I mean is still like you're still blessed in that aspect, because a lot of people, their parents just immediately turn away. So like there still is positives in the story. Obviously it's not ideal, but like there are a lot of people out there who just completely get denied by their parents in every aspect.
Yeah, and I just can't imagine what those people go through. And I feel for them very greatly. So then later on, I think about 6 to 9 months later after that, I was texting my friend about my crush that I had, and my mom just like came up. I didn't have the liberty of even telling her when I wanted to. I didn't have a plan to tell her, but and she just came upstairs one day randomly and took my phone from me and read all of the conversation. I tried to play off. She didn't have a phone at the time, so I tried to play off as best as I could. Like, oh no, like Michaela's talking about Billy, you know. She believed it for probably like a few seconds, and then realized that I was the one talking about liking boys, and so that was definitely harder for her to take in. She didn't have a great support system initially.
How did she respond?
Initially, she kind of didn't say anything, which was the epitome, like, initially of when problems arose. It was more of a reserved emotion, and I didn't necessarily know how she felt. And as time on, that just was, I think it went away, and it was easier for her to handle it because she did gain a support system with her friends who had gone through similar experiences. It sounds like it's so traumatizing for her, but which I'm sure it was.
For a mother who has never experienced anything like that, I'm sure like it's hard.
It was definitely hard for her, for both of us, to realize like what that relationship would mean. After
not only that, but everyone has to understand like this is like a Mormon perspective.
Yeah.
Like his mother is like it's a complete Mormon perspective. So like for somebody who's grown up in that church, I feel like it like that adds just another layer of like battling within themselves.
Yeah.
Because like obviously it's your son and you want to love your son as they are, but like you have this other side of you, which is the church, that's telling you something totally different. So it's really hard to battle those sides, and especially as a mother, you want to do what's right for your child, and if you are in the church, you have a hard time trying to figure out what's right for them.
Yep.
And that's not to say that everything that his mother did is okay, or everything that she felt is okay. That's just trying to give you a perspective on what was going on, most likely in your mother's mind.
Yeah, and she definitely didn't make it easy at first, because she would give me articles about gay men living straight lifestyles within the church in order to keep their faith. They would grow up, get married in the temple, and have a wife and kids. And honestly, I didn't read a single one because I knew, I think deep down, where I needed to go to be happy, and that was not to be with a woman. Although I did struggle with that for about 2 years. And I just knew that there's no sense in me lying to myself or my like partner. Not that if I had gone down that path, I wouldn't lie, because I would tell her that I struggled with same-sex attraction, but it just was not the right path. And obviously I'm way more happy with myself than I ever could be.
Do you want to touch on the topic of like when you had to go to therapy and what that was like for you?
I went, first of all, when I told my bishop that I was having same-sex, because my mom urged me to talk to him, same-sex attraction, he told me that the feelings were valid, but the actions upon same-sex attraction were sinful. And so, and then to ending the conversation, basically it was directing me towards therapy and wanted to know like when we should start that. It's not, I never knew like the full implications of going to therapy from the church. I don't know if it's conversion therapy. I don't know what they do.
It wasn't conversion therapy. I think it was therapy to help you to try to stray away from
those sinful
attractions that you have.
Yeah. So I just kind of denied that, and I think I was honestly 16, almost 17 at this point, and after that conversation with him, I told my mom I didn't want to go to church anymore. But prior to that, decision, actually, I think after that decision, my mom brought me to like a regular or a non-denominational therapist, and honestly, the experience was pretty awkward because like the first session, I just remember him introducing himself, and his first line was, "Yeah, my brother's gay, so I know a lot about these issues," and it just felt very disassociated, and I was not into having that, so I went for a couple sessions, I think, and then I just didn't, because it wasn't really helping me. I think that I ultimately...
Well, it probably ultimately hurt you.
Yeah.
It did any help, you know?
It didn't really help at all, so...
Yeah.
Which I know that therapy probably could help a lot of people. Honestly, I'm a believer that therapy, anyone should go to therapy to be able to have someone to talk to. But not in the sense
that you were going.
But not for the sense that I was going. It wasn't helping me how I needed to. So I just turned to myself after that, and I just processed my own feelings. However,
I feel like the therapy that you were going to was specific to help you not be attracted to men.
Yeah, I think
which is really damaging.
I don't think that my mom brought me to someone that was, maybe, I don't know. I don't think it was someone who was
even if it wasn't somebody
suppress those feelings. I think it was just someone to, like a normal therapist, to like talk through the feelings.
Well, even if it was somebody who wasn't there to specifically make you not be attracted to men, they would definitely not encourage that because they were LDS.
Well, it wasn't. It was non-denominational. It was just.
But it was from a church?
No.
Oh. Then why would they say that you were struggling? Or like, oh, my brother has the same issues, if it wasn't meant as...
That was just something he said. It was.
But
just
I feel like if you're like a normal therapist, you wouldn't ever describe being gay as an issue.
Yeah.
Because like if I were to go to a normal therapist now, which I have been, they would never describe.
Yeah, my brother struggled. I don't know if he's. Yeah, I guess. He said.
Did you ever think about that?
I didn't ever think about it like that.
Well, there's that for you.
Well, I don't think he described it as issues. I think he described it as the fact that he was knowledgeable about this topic.
The topic, okay. That makes a little bit more sense.
Sorry if I didn't explain that.
I thought you went to like a Christian, like you didn't go to a Mormon anymore, you went to a Christian or something like that, who like still didn't accept it.
No, I don't think so.
So like, how is your relationship with your parents now?
Perfectly fine. As time goes on, I can talk to my mom. I feel like my relationship with my mom is a lot closer than it ever was, and my relationship with my dad has never been super close, so I'm not really worried about that, and it's not even because of my sexuality. But with my mom, we're broken down, but we've grown from that, and I can say that my mom's one of my best friends, that we talk about everything, and she has very objective perspective on it. She is the same way that my dad, she treats it the same way, that she loves me, but she doesn't accept the lifestyle that I'm choosing.
So it's still seen as a choice in their eyes? It's
still seen as a choice. Not to the fullest extent, because my mom says she's done research and she calls it a chemical imbalance, she believes that it's a chemical imbalance in my brain that is allowing me to have feelings for men. So that's her outlook, and I'm just gonna let it be what it is, because I'd rather have a close relationship with my mom and be able to talk to her about relationships and things, and in the sense that she has.
How long has it been like that, do you know?
It just went like that.
Okay.
So
say that last part again.
I'd rather have that relationship with my mom how it is, and to the fullest extent that she knows, because otherwise there's no point in trying to change her perspective on it, because I know it's not going to.
If you just if you see that your mom thinks that it's a chemical imbalance in your brain or whatever, and she and you decide that you don't want to have any type of relationship with her at all, how is she supposed to learn that that's not what it is? Or how is she supposed to learn what it means for somebody to be gay? How is she supposed to get educated? If you completely cut off ties with people that don't necessarily agree with like your perspective on things, they're never going to learn. And they're just going to think, oh, like in your instance, like, oh, gay people are just bitter and they're hateful. But if you sit down and you try to form a relationship with them and keep that relationship, they're more likely to learn and grow.
Definitely.
So just like making sure that you're not just like cutting somebody off because of something that they disagree with, but trying to still befriend them or like have a relationship with them in order to teach them.
Yeah, my biggest advice to anyone going through similar trials in their life is perseverance, is to just push through and keep trying to have those relationships with the people that have been there for you to raise you, because at the end of the day they will become more educated. Than if you're obviously still in their life, they're going to turn around. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I just know that through my experience that...
And it's not going to happen overnight.
And it won't happen overnight. It's taken years, and I think it's still developing new educational... Like, my mom has not said that to me for at least 5 or 6 years. So that was something that helped her recognize my struggles and realize what was going on with me. But that's not a truth, but it was a truth for her, and I think now she realizes more that that's not necessarily true. So things do get better, and people become more
keep pursuing
educated.
Those relationships, keep trying to educate, keep trying to show people a different perspective. I think that's like a huge thing, which is also apparent in my story, my coming out story. So like when I first came out to myself and came to terms with myself, I was probably in high school, maybe. Looking back now, there was a lot of instances when I was in elementary school and in middle school where I was like, oh, I was gay and I didn't even know it. I didn't have the term, I didn't have the right vocabulary to put on it at that time. Right. Like, my first kiss was a girl. Like, I wanted to kiss a girl, and I wanted that to be my first kiss.
My first kiss was a boy, too.
Yeah, I was in kindergarten, that's what I wanted to do. So it's like, looking back now, there's so many instances which I'm like, oh, I should have known then, but I didn't, because I didn't have the vocabulary. So basically, I knew that I had these feelings, and I never said it in my head. I never said it to myself out loud. I never said anything about it. But I just remember one day I was really curious, and I was just on YouTube, and I saw a video in like the recommended bar that said, I'm coming out, or like my coming out story, or something like that. So I clicked on it, and it was actually Troye Sivan. This was before he was famous, and he had like a couple thousand subscribers.
His YouTube channel.
Yeah, and it was R.I.P. So like it was actually his video, and I remember thinking like, oh, this kid like came out and like he's happy. And one thing Troye said in his video was something that really helped him coming to terms with himself. Was he stood in the mirror and he said, "I'm gay," to himself. And so like I remember like going like clicking off that video and going on a bunch of different recommended videos for like their people's coming out stories, which really helped me. And I remember I just like looked in the mirror one day and I was just like, I'm gay. And that was the most terrifying feeling to have, because just knowing that I was gay meant so much heartache and so much like just shit that I knew I would have to go through coming to terms with myself. So just immediately it was just fear. Just like I was just so scared.
I remember having similar experiences.
Yeah, like when you finally
to sit there in the mirror and it's like terrifying.
When you finally come to terms with yourself about something like that you know is going to bring you hardship, it's a terrifying feeling. So I did that, and I kept those feelings to myself for a very long time. And eventually I went, like I would talk to girls online and stuff like that, but I never told anybody. And I remember one time, me and my friend, this was in middle school, so I think the time that I looked at myself and I was like, I'm gay, was probably like 8th grade. And I was talking to my best friend Emily in her hot tub, like late at night, and we were talking about our deepest, darkest secrets. We were telling each other our secrets. And she said, well, what's your deepest, darkest secret? And I said, my deepest, darkest secret is something that I'll never tell anybody for the rest of my life. Like, I'm gonna die with it. I remember telling her that. And she was like, well, if I can guess what it is, would you tell me? And I said, yeah. And so she kind of just like looked at me and was like, do you think it's a sin? Because she also grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in a Christian home, and we met at a Christian school. So her saying like, do you think it's a sin? I immediately knew what she was talking about. And I just like started crying. I didn't even answer her question. I was just crying, and she came over and hugged me, and Like, we pretty much just never talked about it again until college. I kept it inside of me because I wasn't ready. And she knew I wasn't ready, and she's such a wonderful friend. She didn't tell anybody because she knew that, like, it wasn't something I wanted to tell. And I just went through high school, never talked about it, never came out, never did anything like that. And then once I got to college, I met a girl.
And then things changed.
Then things got fucked up. No. I met a girl, and she lived on the same dorm as I did, and I had a huge crush on her. And by the time I was in college at this point, I knew I was gay. But I was 100% just knew I was gay, was comfortable with it in myself, but was still uncomfortable telling other people. And I knew I had a crush on this girl, and I knew I wanted to pursue her in some way, but I knew she was straight. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I was using him as sort of a cover-up, which a lot of people do, which is a really shitty thing to do. It's terrible to use people in any sense or any way, but that's what I did at the time to try to protect myself.
How did you come to be so comfortable within yourself if that was what was going on externally?
Like, how did I become comfortable in myself? It's just I talked about it in my head so much that it became normal in my head,
right, to
be gay and to like women. But as far as like being comfortable with myself to other people, it was a totally different story.
That's a different feeling, experience, yeah.
So, basically, yeah, I was dating this guy, she was dating a guy, and I thought she was completely straight. And we became friends, and we started like texting back and forth, and there was a lot of flirting. And like for girls, like flirting with each other isn't a big deal. It's just like something a lot of girls do. So I assumed she was like straight and she didn't mean anything by it. But then eventually like the flirting got more serious, and it became apparent that we liked each other and that we had feelings for each other. And we were on winter break when this really happened from school when we were in college. And I broke up with my boyfriend, she broke up with her boyfriend, and we decided that we wanted to be together. And what?
So romantic.
I know. We decided that we wanted to be together and like pursue each other. And we were on winter break, and she flew to my hometown to see me before school started for a weekend, and that was like the first time we kissed. And she wasn't out to anybody either, and so we kept it a secret for a really long time because we were both still terrified, and I definitely still wasn't comfortable with like telling anybody. And then we were going out, so we went back to school, and we wanted to go out to a party, which was like a coming back party from like winter break. And Emily was in my dorm room while we were getting ready, the one who I came out to all those years before. And I sat her down, and I was like, I wanted to come out to her because I wanted to be able to dance with Gabby, the girl that I was talking to, who I'm still with today. I wanted to dance with her, and I wanted to have a good time with her, and I didn't want to feel like I had to hide anymore. I was tired of it. That initially is what pushed me to come out, because I was just so tired of like hiding everything. And
it's exhausting.
It's so exhausting. It's like you get anxious and stressed, and like you pay attention to every little thing that you do because you don't want to out yourself. It's just an awful feeling. And so I just didn't want to have that night, and I was tired of it. And so I sat Emily down, and I was like, Emily, like, I'm gay and I am dating Gabby. And she was just like, okay. Like, she was the reaction that everyone's reaction should be. She was like, okay, so like, why? So I was like, yeah, I was like crying at this point. She was like, that's fine. Like, why are you crying?
Yeah.
And I was like,
I think that she knew.
Yeah, she knew, but we had never talked about it. So I was like, it's like coming out again almost.
It was almost like, why tell me, you know?
Yeah, and she was just like, I'm happy that you and Gabby are together. That's awesome. But she was just like, you don't have to like cry or anything. And I was like, and I was still crying, and she's like, girl, like, you're fine.
Right.
And then we went out that night, and my best friend Savannah, who's also been my best friend as long as Emily. My best friend Savannah was there. And as we were walking, I kind of pulled Savannah away from the group, and I was like, I want to tell you something. And she was like, okay, like what? And I was like, I'm gay and I'm dating Gabby.
Laid out all the
Yeah, and she was extremely shocked. She did not take it well at all. She didn't really say anything to me. She was just like, what do you mean? And I was just like, well, exactly what I said.
No, Savannah's had the same background too growing up.
Yeah.
So she has been raised in the Christian faith too.
Yeah, and she went to a Christian school just like I did. And she didn't take it well. She was upset. She was sad. Had all these feelings. She never said anything like hateful. You could just tell she was very upset. And we went to the party that night, and she like.
You told her before the party?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she had a terrible time at the party, and she left early and was crying, and we didn't talk for like 2 months after that.
Now, her being like as close of a friend as she was, how did that make you feel? Like?
I mean, it was awful because like, you want your friends to be there for you when you express such a personal thing, mm-hmm. especially like when you're first coming to terms with it yourself, you know? And so it was really hurtful for me, and eventually she came to terms with it, and she wrote me a letter and apologized, and she said, this is your journey, and I shouldn't, you know, she was basically just like, I shouldn't have anything to do with like you coming to terms with yourself. She basically said like, this is your journey and not mine, and I shouldn't be like putting myself
influencing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she just said she loved me, and she said she was praying for me, and that she cared for me. And eventually we just got closer and closer after that, and got stronger and stronger. And this also leads into, I went to Cru at Eastern, which is a Christian organization on campus, because I still had my faith. I still believed in God. Like, I still was a Christian, and I still am. But like during that time, I really wanted to pursue it, and so I went to Cru, and we went to a conference one day, and a man spoke there about being gay, and how he had come, the Lord had saved him from being gay, and he had a wife and kids now, and it's
Sounds
not
like those articles.
Yeah, he's like, it's not a problem for me anymore. And that was really damaging for me in my coming out journey, because I didn't want to believe those things, and it was like a battle inside myself, like how you were talking about. It was a huge battle within myself over what I thought was right. And eventually I came to the conclusion that God loves me as I am, because when I read the Bible, that's what I read, and I decided I wasn't going to let anybody tell me what the Bible said. I was going to look for myself. And I decided that God loves me as I am, and that's that. And I was happy again, and I was comfortable in my faith, and I was comfortable with myself. And eventually one of the leaders of like our Bible study group called me and Gabby to come to her house, and we always went over to her house and like hung out and had food and all that stuff, so it didn't seem like a big deal. So we went over there, and then I realized she didn't invite Savannah and Emily, who would always come with us. So I was kind of confused at that point. And she kind of sat us down and just dropped a bomb on us, and basically was like, I believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and I think that you both struggle with same-sex attraction, and I want to go through this Bible study with you about homosexuality and what we can do to help you. And basically said that she wanted to try to fix us.
Because you just explained how you had the self-truth, which is like so important to have those self-truths about what is important to you over like anyone else's truth about what they think should go. But like how is that, knowing that you had just come to that realization more, and then having someone bring you down like that?
It was like somebody ripping through a fresh wound again. Because the man who spoke at the conference before really tore me down and really made me feel discouraged, and I kind of built myself up through that. and I was finally at a better place, and I was finally at a point where I was comfortable with myself and with my faith. And then immediately after that, she tore me down completely. And I struggled really hard after that with my faith. Questioning your faith, for anybody who has had religion in their background, is an extremely hard thing.
That was a big part of my coming out too, because that was such a big part of my life. I had to question what my faith was. I had to question where I was going after that. Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize, like, it's like...
Our cat's in here.
Oh. A lot of people don't realize, especially when they have not grown up in faith, it is your life. It's not just a part of your life. It's not just something that you do every once in a while. It is something that you incorporate into your life in every single aspect and every single second of your life. So for that to be somewhat dismantled is catastrophic. And it's not something that's easy. So
by all means, not easy at all.
So when that happened to me, it was completely dismantling for me. And I mean, now I've finally built myself up. I'm still not all the way where I want to be in my faith, and I'm still not comfortable 100% like I was before. And I want to be there, and I'm working on that. And it's just an everyday struggle with, like, trying to constantly reaffirm that God loves me, and I am strong in my faith, and I'm comfortable with myself in it, and to know my truth and accept my truth. That's been the hardest thing so far.
And the everyday struggles is different for everyone. It's like what you're struggling with is definitely it's valid.
Well, I also didn't even touch on the topic of, like, what it was like coming out to my parents. It was kind of nearing the time the whole crew thing was.
So all of this is going on at the same time.
Yeah. So basically, Gabby was supposed to be coming over. No, this was during summer break. So this was right before all the cruise ship went down.
Okay.
So Gabby was supposed to be coming over. Hold on.
Water.
I've been talking a lot.
Water break.
Gabby was supposed to be coming over to spend the night for a couple of days for a 3 days Grace concert, I think, was what she was there for. You better not knock that over, I swear to God.
Toby, our cat is in here, but she's just laying, she's taking a nap.
Anyways, so I didn't want to feel hidden anymore from my parents. I wanted to have a good time with Gabby. I didn't want to have that distraction while she was there, because she was only there for a couple of days, and then she had to go back home. And we were long distance at that point, because she was living in Seattle, and I was living on the other side of the state. So I decided that I wanted to tell my parents so we didn't have to hide. So I sat my mom down, and I was like, Mom, and it was really hard. It, like, felt like it was, like, stuck in my throat. Were both
your parents there at the same time?
It was just my mom.
Just your mom.
Because I knew my mom would be more complacent than my dad, which was the opposite for you. So I could feel it stuck in my throat. And then eventually I was like, I couldn't say I'm gay, so I had to be like, Mom, me and Gabby are more than just friends. And my mom kind of just sat there and looked at me, and she was like, I wish you wouldn't have said that. And she basically just didn't say anything after that. And Gabby was on her way, and I was like, Mom, do you want Gabby to sleep in my bed? Do you want us to sleep together? Like, what do you want us to do? And she was just like, do whatever you want. And you could tell she was, like, struggling really hard with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really upset, obviously, because that's not the response that you want from a mother.
Right.
And then a little while after that, Gabby came, we had fun, and then she left. And I was in the living room talking with my mom about it, and I wanted to open up more dialogue because she wasn't saying anything. And I was, like, trying to talk to her about it, and she kind of just looked at me and said, if God tells me that you can't live here anymore, then that's just what's going to happen. And I remember saying, like, if you're talking to the same God that I'm talking to, he would never tell you to do that.
Did that just come out?
I just said that.
That's what you had to say?
And I was just like, he would never tell you to do that. And she was just like, and then, like, never said anything about it again. And then I went back to school that fall, and I cut my hair off completely. My hair was, like, maybe like an inch long all over.
Your hair used to be so long.
Yeah, my hair was down to like my butt almost. It wasn't down to my butt. It was like mid-waist. And
you look like a completely different person. I remember seeing pictures. It's just like
yeah. I decided I wanted to cut my hair. It was something I always wanted to do. I was just always too afraid. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. So I did it, and I called my mom and I told her because I was really excited about it. And she pretty much disowned me, and she said like you're going to do whatever you're going to do in your life, but I don't want to be involved. And that's what she said, and she hung up on me, and she didn't talk to me for, I don't even know how long. It was a couple weeks. And then she called me, and I didn't answer because I didn't want to talk to her. And
after she said that.
Yeah, she left a voicemail and said, I'm so sorry for the things that I've said to you. And she said, I've talked to the Lord, and I realized she said, he has opened my eyes to realize that I was wrong. And the way I was feeling was wrong.
I feel like her emotions were definitely clouding her judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, her faith is really strong, and raising you in that faith
was really important to her.
Right.
But yeah, she just ultimately was like, the Lord has shown me that I should love and accept you as you are, which was incredible to hear because my mom is like so religious. And I was really happy, and we had more conversations after that. To this day, we still talk about it. We're still growing. She's still learning and trying to understand all of it. And she's come to a point now where she's excited for me and Gabby's wedding.
Yeah.
She's excited to see where our relationship goes. And I remember one time Gabby and I were having a rocky relationship, and my mom called Gabby and was like, when are you guys going to get over this thing you're doing? Because she loves Gabby so much. So, like, it's just a complete 180 from where it started. And that's why I want to say, like, had I totally disregarded my mother and not listened to anything she had to say because I was mad at her, had I done that, we never would be in the place that we are now.
Or had you, like, been opposed to her and shut her off, too, because that's what she was going to do? Or that's what she did?
Yeah, she completely disowned me, and because I stuck around and I was willing to hear her out.
Disownment, it's like a two-way street. Like,
yeah, exactly.
One person can do it, but you don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm. And then with my dad, when I came out to my dad, he was just like, his brother was gay, so he kind of knew the territory almost. Mm-hmm. And he was completely okay with it, way more than my mom was. He like talked to me about it. He still has his issues with it, a little bit, but I think slowly as he's gotten to know me and Gabby, those are slowly starting to dissolve. And I think that he's now at a point where he loves Gabby and he loves me being with her, and he is totally accepting of us and brings us into his home.
And I don't know at what point, like, that I met them, how much time had passed since you told them.
Yeah.
Okay. But, I mean, they're completely accepting of me, and I mean, I talked to Cindy about all my relationships and everything.
All his boy troubles.
Your mom, yeah.
Cindy loves it. So they're very open-minded people in that sense. For religious people, I'm saying, not just open-minded people in general. This is just for, like, religious people. They're very open-minded.
Yeah, exactly.
For religious people. So, yeah, I think I'm very fortunate in the sense that my parents came around and they love me and accept me as I am, and they're excited for, like, my future. So, and I don't think, like I said, like, a lot of people don't get to experience that, which is really unfortunate. Mm-hmm. Most of the people that I've told don't have an issue with it. All my friends love me as I am. All my friends accept me as I am. Even my friend Savannah, who like was having the problems initially, she's an ally. She's a huge ally for me.
Yeah, she's grown a lot in herself too.
Yeah, and she's also religious. She's a Christian, and she just always tries to solidify my feelings. She always says, every time I'm like, I'm having these feelings, and she's like, don't listen to those feelings, cast those feelings away, because they're not of the Lord. The Lord loves you as you are.
Yeah. And
she's just always there to like solidify how I'm feeling and just to try to build me up and lift me up. Which is a huge part of my recovery and trying to find my faith again.
There's nothing that you can't do to educate someone a little bit more about what you believe and what's close to you. feelings definitely get in the way, and that's just a human
it's a human
tendency.
Emotion, yeah.
And even though it may be off-putting at first, just recognize that feelings are temporary, and people go through cycles and circles of emotions. They all just kind of go in a circle anyways.
Huge thing that I think I want people to know is forgiveness is key to keeping relationships and forming them in a positive direction.
It's one of the biggest.
If you can't forgive somebody for hurting you initially, no one's going to grow. And if you hold that animosity towards somebody, it's never going to resolve itself, and it's just going to be more heartache for you. All being said, if somebody is completely dismantling your feelings and has no want or need to change in any way or hear you out, after it's been a little while, after you've tried, and it's a completely unhealthy relationship, get out of that relationship.
There are toxic.
There are exceptions to the there's toxic relationships. Just recognizing what's worth saving and what isn't is important, but also if it's something that isn't worth saving, let that go. Don't hold those feelings inside of you, because ultimately that's going to hurt yourself.
First off, take care of yourself and recognize how much energy you have left to not change someone's mind, but bring light to new ideas, and if they're not changing, then that's just how it's going to be, because you can't at the end of the day change someone's perspective. You can only introduce new ideas and how much joy that it would bring to you, and you can just show them how much joy that it brings to you. Just lead by example.
Exactly. And I think another thing to touch on is the people who are still struggling with coming out. It's hard, but ultimately, in the end, it's better. It's 100% better. Like, the
world's a big fish.
I don't think you understand how much better you feel when you come out to people and you're truthful with people, and you don't have that weight on you anymore. Even if, like, when my mom didn't react the way she did, there was still a weight that was lifted from me that I felt good. Even though there was a lot of, like, things that I had to go through.
Step in the right direction.
It was a step in the right direction. And just, like, if you do it now, like, I wish I would have come out when I was in 6th grade, 7th grade. I wish I would have come out sooner. I wish I would have talked to my parents.
I wish our environments would have been more able to have that conversation, but...
I mean, like, even before, like, even after I realized and I understood the vocabulary, I wish I would have come out sooner. Because the sooner you come out, the sooner you can start rebuilding those relationships.
And the sooner you can grow into the individual you're supposed to be.
And you don't have to, there's, like, this whole other side. Like, you don't have to sit there and be anxious and worry. And, like, you can use that brain energy for something else that's way more important.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So, that's a little bit of advice for anyone watching. I just want to encourage, like, if anyone has any questions about our stories, feel free to leave comments, DM us any questions you may have about that. There's Q&A video coming up soon. We received a lot of, if you saw our Instagram post, we received a lot of questions about things that we could answer in the next podcast. So,
do you want to come say hi?
I don't want to.
You don't want to? Savannah wants to come say hi. This is the person in my story, my coming out story.
Her story.
I talked about.
Hi guys!
Hey.
This is my best friend.
This is a loving friend that has grown from where she once was.
Like we all have.
Oh. They know the tea.
They know the tea.
The tea's been spilled.
Okay, bye.
Okay, guys, we love you all.
We love you.
We hope to see you soon with the next... God damn it. Anyways, we got interrupted. We hope to see you guys soon with the new Q&A video. What? Oh, yeah. And with that, we're just gonna...
No expectations. We'll just create what's next, and you'll have to find out. So.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Love you.
Love you. Bye.